Hello, guys. So this is the one of the final episodes of the year. I'm getting ready to end the podcast for the year. I got 3 more episodes. Today's episode, and then I got 2 more. Next week will be the Christmas special, and then the week after will be my big old review of the year episode, which should be a lot of fun. But for now, let's get into today's episode on Avatar. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of At the Movies with William Fletcher. As per usual, I am your host, William Fletcher, and this week I am joined one last time for the year by Aaron Laffin.
Yo.
For one final episode of the year. And for this week's episode, we will be covering Avatar in anticipation of Avatar: The Way of Water, which comes out this week. When this episode
Holy
goes
crap.
out. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah.
This is something that I've been interested in for a while. I've been looking forward to this. So yeah, Avatar. I'm surprised that these sequels rather, are actually getting released now.
Well, I'm fairly sure the reason behind why it took so long was that James Cameron was waiting for the technology to get to the point when he can have decent motion capture in water.
Yeah, that's why I think it's taken as long as it has because it just
He was waiting for motion capture to catch up a little bit.
yeah, the visual effect, because I mean the visual effects in the first film are very impressive, but they're very much like it's not like a lot of the water is what this the way that's why it's called Avatar: The Way of Water, is because water is a big part of the film and everything. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see if this it's been worth waiting all this time, because I remember I was
I really hope it is.
in one of my classes during high school. I was reading through like a Wikipedia like summary of the production and all the delays of the films, and like I just didn't believe they were ever going to be made. I thought because I think like they were planning to get the second one made and released in like 2013. I think was like the earliest.
Yeah. And he decided to delay it.
And yeah, now it's over nearly a decade later from that initial planned release, and now it's finally getting released. People are seeing it.
But apparently, they're planning on as soon as this is finished, they're planning on just steamrolling us with the rest of the movies.
Yeah, so they've
This one.
finished filming the third one. So they've shot 2 and 3. They just need to edit it and put in all the visual effects aspects and everything. And they're also apparently meant to be Avatar 4 and 5, which I don't think they've filmed yet, but they will be soon. And I assume they'll film both of them concurrently and sort of back to back, so it's just easier that way. I do kind of resent that I have to that there's going to be 4 of these films, because I don't really think there should be that many. Like I just don't I so for the first I rewatched the first film a few days ago, and like it's a good film and all, but I don't really feel like I want to see a sequel. Like it felt to me like, well, this new one is over 3 hours long.
Jesus, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, it's 192 minutes, so three
That's
hours 12 minutes. Yeah.
and that's
Um,
probably not directed. That's only the movie, the it's not director's cut or anything like that
no,
or extended cut. That's
that's
just
just the
the
standard.
standard. Yeah, Jesus.
Because I thought that the first one was long, and like I mean it is long. It's like an hour 40 minutes, but honestly, when I was watching it, I didn't think the runtime didn't really affect me. I felt that it
It
was
was pretty
actually
quick paced.
it moves along, and it's interesting how much Avatar people started to hate on Avatar. I remember when it came out, it was like the biggest film. Like, I mean, it is the biggest film of all time. It's the highest grossing film of all time, made
Didn't it
nearly.
just got overtaken? by like Endgame.
Yeah, so Endgame overtook it, and then they re-released Avatar, and that retook the spot. So has made $2.923 billion, so close to $3 billion. The film made,
Jeez.
and so yeah, that was that re-release, which was earlier this year, which I unfortunately did not get to see, and I'm actually very disappointed I didn't because the film looks amazing. Just watching it at home, I was like, this is an incredible
Yeah,
looking film. Like, visually, this is far beyond what I would have thought capable. Honestly,
of that time period. Yeah,
yeah, especially even in 2009. Like it's like 2009 is 13
innovated
years
a lot
ago.
of.
But
It
yeah,
innovated so much of like visual like technology to this day. Like it innovated mocap and like pretty much everything like CGI. It just made a new standard for it, pretty much.
yeah. So I'm just reading here. Avatar. James Cameron began working on Avatar in 1994, and he had planned to have it released in 1999, but the visual effects weren't up to scratch yet and wouldn't
Scratch,
be
yeah.
capable of what he was doing. But yeah, and then he started working on it more in the mid 2000s, 2005, 6, 7, and he began working on it during that time. And then yeah, no, he released it. It was just this big deal. It was the biggest film of all time, and it kind of still is in terms of money. And I understand why to an extent, like, because it's a visual experience, like it just
No, yeah.
looks visually incredible.
Yeah. Even to this day, it's still a visually incredible movie. Like you think like you notice with like a lot of like early 2000s, early 90s, all those kind of era of films, you notice how like the quality of the movie as we've gotten further in CGI advancements. You look
Yeah,
back at that CGI and it's like ew, gross.
yeah,
Ew.
visual
But
effect.
Avatar's just stayed there, that it's always just continued being stunning even to this day.
And it and it's amazing how much the visual effects have held up for them. Because there's films made nowadays that, like, in the last few years where the visual effects don't really hold up that well. And then made a decade after Avatar. But I think,
I,
like, yeah, it's
I can
just.
think of one movie or two that
Mm,
have been made this year and are
hmm
pretty crap in visual effects,
Are they Marvel films?
possibly.
Yeah, well, I think also the difference between Avatar and sort of some certain visual effects nowadays is because they spent however long on Avatar to get it right. I think that's why
Yeah,
these sequels have taken so long because they're spending years getting the visual effects right, so that when it finally comes out, it looks you know
stunning.
amazing.
And just in the trailers alone, it already looks so good visually.
Yeah, this new one. I saw the trail when I went to see Doctor Strange 2. There was like the first ever trailer for Avatar, and just watching it was like, this is amazing. Like, because and they really show off in the trailers in this new one, underwater shots, and the creature designs under the water and everything, and it looks like.
And there's so much more detail as well. Just from that trailer, there's just all these tiny details you see, and it's like, what?
Yeah, it's amazing how far CGI is coming, and CGI in general, in more recent years, they're doing more things with like de-aging people and making older actors look
Yeah,
younger, which that looks a lot of the time looks really great. But it's just crazy how much CGI has advanced in the past few years in certain aspects, of course.
yeah, definitely.
Um, but yeah, sort of to get into the film, I've seen this film once beforehand, over a decade ago, when I was like 6 or 7 years old. So I would have seen. I didn't see it in cinemas. I saw it on DVD, which that yeah gives an X. Like it and I had no memory of any of the film really. So rewatching it, it was basically watching it for the
Rewatching the
first.
Turning.
It was basically like watching it for the first time again though. Like I think yeah, I think the film is it's very much the film is it's strange in that how much people dislike the film, even though it's not really that. It's not that like it's not a terrible film, and I think people dismiss it as being not a good film, and I don't really understand. Like, no, I understand why people have problems with it, but I don't think it's a well made film on like, you know, and I don't think you would go to that kind of to Avatar for great characters and so it's more of a visual thing. It's a visual.
Yeah, it's visual and like I like the story. Not like I like the story itself. Like and like characters are cool and all that, but like I'm in it for like the story itself behind it, and like I also love the like the background bits, like the how like each there's so many different tribes, and each animal has a name and all that kind of stuff, and all the details for this world that James Cameron has built. That's what I really like the movie is that it's so much detail that he's put into this.
Yeah, there's a whole sort of universe that they establish with the the film. Like it really yeah, it doesn't. It's like there's a whole universe set up, and there's all this lore that they sort of have made for it, and it's really like impressive because it takes it would take a long time to create all this lore and to have it all be set up and everything. And I think that I appreciate how much effort will go has sort of gone into the film to create all this lore and to
If I remember correctly, one of the things that they did was like they got like professional like speech, like ancient speech researchers and all that kind of stuff, or language people that research in different languages and all that.
mm,
So they could come up with new languages, a brand new language, right?
yeah
So that makes sense, that can be used, but also like they had to do like what does singing sound in this language? What does what the when this culture plays a musical instrument, how does that interact with the language and all that kind of stuff? You know,
mm,
they went into like particular details to set up this world, and it's just like apparently like even like the animals in this world have been like designed by like actual like scientists they actually brought on to be like, okay, this animal and this environment could work in this on this planet. It's just insane.
yeah it the film really has so much like that they like you can tell the how much effort has been put into this film and how much James Cameron really cares. Like this is clearly a passion project of his. He's not
Definitely.
just doing it as sort of a for hire gig. Like he cares about this, and he cares about this film and this franchise, in fact. And I think that it's nice to see a filmmaker who really
Cares about his movie.
cares about what he's doing. Because you sort of see other sort of big directors, people like Spielberg and such, who sort of he makes films, but half the time he doesn't seem to care. He's just sort of doing things so he can be paid, as opposed to doing passion projects.
I feel like that's like late like early Spielberg he cared, but late recent Spielberg it's like exactly that.
Hmm
It's just yeah, he's starting to I feel like not care about his movies as much anymore.
Mm.
And I feel like James Cameron, with Avatar, he's really just gone above and beyond making something that he loves, that he cares about, and he doesn't really care if other people like it or not.
I think I guess now's a good time to talk about James Cameron as a filmmaker. I think he, I'm a massive fan of. Of the films I have seen, I'm a big fan of the Terminator films that he did, which I think are great. I haven't actually seen that much of his career. Like I haven't seen The Abyss or True Lies, which I know are quite good. I've seen Titanic. I did an episode on Titanic. It was
I
one
feel
of
like everyone's seen Titanic though.
yeah. But I think James Cameron is a good filmmaker. I think
Oh yeah,
he
I totally forgot he did Aliens as well.
oh Aliens. Yes, yeah, Aliens as well. Aliens is also really good. Yeah, I really like James Cameron. I'm a big fan of what he does, what he makes, because he clearly cares and has an interest about the films he's making, and he's not just sort of doing something as he's not just being hired to do it because they need someone to make it. He is, genuinely interested in what he's making.
Wow, he's actually done a lot of movies that I didn't know he's done. Like I didn't know he did there's this other movie called The Last Action Hero. I didn't realize he did that.
I don't think he was the director on that. I think he might have been a producer or something.
Producers, still, it's a
Yeah,
bloody good movie.
yeah, and yeah, of course he's involved in the other Terminator films because they're taking characters that he created. But yeah, but to sort of getting onto the film now, like I was saying before, I don't really you don't really come to this film for the characters or anything. It's sort of a visual thing. But like that being said, I do think the characters are fairly bland. I don't really think any of them are particularly interesting. I think also part of it is the main guy. I don't think the actor they've got to play him, Sam Worthington, is particularly good in the role, and I found him to be quite bland, actually.
I remember correctly that this is like one of his like first like big breaks when it comes to a movie. Like it was like one of his first like wholly like big movies. Yeah,
I'm
it
just
pretty
looking
much
at
was.
his. Yeah, I'm just looking at his Wikipedia. So he was in Terminator Salvation the same year. And then yeah, a lot of his stuff beforehand, I've got no idea what it is. Like yeah, these are his sort of first two, you know, big, well-known films. And then yeah, he's gonna be in Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5 because he's the main
Main
character.
character. Yeah.
Um, who else is in this film? Zoe Saldana as Neytiri.
Look, I
Uh,
feel like Natiri probably was one of my favorite characters overall.
I
I
think it's
have to.
probably the best part of the film in terms of the characters and stuff. I think,
So
yeah.
I did like Sigourney Weaver.
Hmm.
How can you not like Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah,
Though?
Sigourney Weaver
So
was good. I thought Stephen Lang was a decent villain. I think
he was. Which isn't he making a return in the new movie? It's been speculated that he's like in
I
the new
think I
movie.
saw something that he might be in it for like a cameo or something. I don't
Well,
remember.
in the trailer, you see a avatar that looks like him.
Yeah, I think
So people are
I
like, oh, did they like clone his body or something like that?
yeah, and I think Sigourney Weaver's rumored to be in the new one, or maybe it has been confirmed. I'm not entirely sure. I think a lot of people from the first film are gonna be returning. Yeah, I think but yeah, there's not really much for me to say about the characters. I think they're all fairly standard. The film's not really that. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not really that special. Like it's kind of just like it's fairly standard, and you can kind of see where it's going as you watch it. But like again, it's a visual thing. Like that's why you sort of want to watch this film is because in it's a visual treat.
Experience.
Yeah, and I think they really showcase the visual effects phenomenally well. Like the flying sequences where like towards the end where it's like this where
Yeah,
the Na'vi are facing off against the humans and they're on those big, I forgot what they're called, but those flying animals and they're
Ye-
like the film really demonstrates the scale and the size of everything, and it all looks great. For it's pretty much basically entirely CGI for like 90% of the film. Like I know there's probably some real sets and everything, but a lot of it just looks like CG. It is CGI, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it all looks great. I think some films get into that habit of they use CGI too much and then it starts to look bad or it doesn't look
yeah,
real,
definitely.
which
Like
is yeah, a
I'm
problem.
a big person on like physical, like visual effects, like
Yeah, like costumes and puppets
practical.
and
Yeah,
those kinds of things. Yeah.
but when it comes to like this CGI, I'm like, this is really good.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I honestly, it's not. I know it's not practical to keep but if everything was like visual effects in terms of practical effects. Look, I mean, some of my favorite films of all time have just phenomenal practical effects. Something like Little Shop of Horrors, for example. The practical effects in that film hold up remarkably well. And if they made that film nowadays, it would probably be all with
All
CGI.
CGI.
Yeah, and that would take away from it because seeing practical effects there's a certain charm to it, and a real sort of seeing like, okay, this like it feels more tangible to see practical effects as opposed to CGI a lot of the time because CGI is clearly fake, whereas practical effects are it's
Yeah.
real, it's actually there.
Well, with the flying creatures, which I actually found out the name, so the humans call them banshees, but the natives call them ikans. They did the similar things that the Game of Thrones with riding the dragons.
Oh, so they had
Yeah, like
a
a kind of
green
like a
screen.
mounted
They had
like saddle thing.
like a green screen like sort of thing for them to.
I think they did the similar thing. I can't don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly sure they did the similar thing, which I think they were like the first people to actually do that kind of CGI. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is really
Avatar,
cool.
yeah, Avatar really, yeah, sort of because
Pioneered.
beforehand, yeah, there had been people in motion capture suits, like Gollum in Lord of the Rings and King Kong and everything, but you don't it was that was only sort of for one creature, whereas this was an entire group of people in motion capture suits on a completely CGI
Ground.
world. Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
just green screen, just on green screens, and you don't really see that. You
I think
certainly, well,
they
not at the
ended up.
time anyway.
I think they used like I forgot the name of the studio, but it's like the biggest studio you can get in Hollywood. To create all the CGI and all that,
Weta
and
Workshop or
I think so. It's one of the really big um you know warehouses where
mm,
they do the all the shooting and all that, and like if you've ever seen behind the scenes of Avatar, it's actually really cool.
yeah, I think it's
Just
Weta
technology
Workshop. Yeah,
wise. I look, I'd recommend to anyone listening to this to definitely have a look in it if you're interested in like looking at like visual technology and all that, because it's pretty phenomenal to watch like the process and how they got from the motion cap to blue aliens.
yeah, and the film really. I think in terms of other sort of technical aspects, like the cinematography, like the shots that they achieve and that they get, and to help showcase off these visual effects, like it looks all great, and then the way the camera moves, and I think that it's very well put together on a technical aspect. I think it's really well crafted as a film. Like it's a film that I could only dream of making, like, like doing that, a massive CGI film, and it looking good, and then having all these, like it's like something that's so, I'm sure if I had the money and the budget, and I had the access that James Cameron had, I'm sure I could probably make something to a similar level of quality, but like it's a lot of hard work, and that's
Exactly.
why these films take years to make, because there's really, it's like it's not easy to do. Like CGI takes forever to look good, and that's sort of why, sort of in more recent years, CGI has been arguably getting worse, because visual effects design create people who do visual effects have been sort of had crunch time, and they've had to try and make things quickly, and
Yeah,
that
exactly.
and that overall affects the quality of the visual effects.
Doctor Strange 2. I mean, what? I didn't say anything.
Um, I think, like, because you said before we recorded that you had a lot to say about this film, and that it's a favorite film of yours. What are
Yeah,
some
it's
things
one
you
of my
sort of
favorites.
really like about the film? Because
Look, I love the locations that they made,
mm,
especially like the the mountains, the floating mountains. That's the word.
mm,
The floating mountains, awesome. Love that setting. Love all that kind of stuff. I love the music. The music is phenomenal. That
oh yeah, the music is actually a really good bit, because it really helps. Again, it creates a sort of, sense of wonder, and yeah,
I'm like
it's very fitting, and it sounds great. Yeah, I think the score is one of the best parts of the film as well. I think, like,
I love the design of like say all the animals and like all and the Navi itself and the small details. Like for instance, the avatars, like the main character is Avatar. They have 5 fingers when the natives have 4 fingers.
mm,
So that's a really cool detail because they have like 5 fingers because they're part human. They got human DNA,
yeah,
which is really interesting. Love that detail. I love how every creature they have similar traits, but they're also all unique. Like a lot of the
mm,
creatures have multiple limbs
mm,
or some bioluminescent but they're all different.
mm,
I love the design of the world itself. Just I feel like the story's pretty good. Acting's all right. I'll admit the acting's all right.
yeah.
Uh,
I think, like, to me, the sort of problem for the film, and why I don't love it more, is, I just sort of, I don't think it's like it's very well put together. It looks phenomenal. The score is excellent and everything. I do just find, though, that I do think the film is a bit long, though. I will say, like, it does move along very quickly, but it is also too long. I think, like, I found that, for me personally, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be in it. Like, there's just a lot of setup for things, and I kind of understand that at a certain point, but it goes on a bit too long. And as we were talking about before we started recording, there's multiple cuts of the film. There's
yeah,
the standard cut of the film, which I think is like 2 hours 40 minutes, I believe. And then there's the director's cut, and then there's like an extended cut, which I don't know if I've seen them. I think I've just seen the sort of standard cut that was shown in cinemas. Um, I believe, which one did you watch? You watched one of the other
I think
versions.
it's director's cut. It could be extended. One of those two.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, the film, it's definitely too long, and this new one is over 3 hours, which I feel like is gonna be. I'm gonna feel that runtime at a certain point. I'll be like, oh god, can we just get on with
Yeah,
this?
look. That's why I'm gonna go see it with my dad most likely, and we're planning on most likely going gold class for it.
Yeah, no,
If
I
it's gonna
should.
be that
Yeah,
long, because we're like, well, okay, we want to be comfortable and we want to be able to, have, usually most gold class people like, you get your food and all that kind of stuff like given
hmm
to you or delivered to you. But like a 3 hour long movie, that's like, isn't that's longer than like Infinity Wars and Endgame?
yeah. I think Endgame was a little over 3 hours, but and I think Infinity War was like 2.5 hours. But yeah, the Way of Water is longer than that, and I don't really like watching 3 hour films because they take so long, and pretty much every time I watch a 3 hour long film, I'm like, okay, this goes on a bit too long, and there's scenes here that don't need to be here, and I'm
Yeah,
positive I'm gonna feel that way about
it's
the
three
Way
hours
of
and 10
Water.
minutes.
Yeah, it just is gonna be like I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to, go to the bathroom at some point because I just can't
Yeah.
do that. And I saw an interview with because James Cameron, he's been doing a lot of press for the film and he's been talking about it a lot. And he was talking about. I want to find what he said specifically, but he was basically making a point about the film and people. His point was sort of like, well, people can sit down and they can watch, however many hours of TV and not need to go to the bathroom, but they sort of draw the line at a 3 hour film. And I'm like, I kind of, I get what he's saying, but I don't know. Something about watching several episodes of a TV show in quick succession doesn't feel the same way as watching a
Yeah,
3 hour film.
because like you can usually like pause or like
Yeah, that.
most things have a pause function or like it's always there's always like a the episode starts, episode ends, episode
Mm,
starts, episode ends. So like you can pick and choose when like you have a bathroom break. When like a 3 hour long movie is just like you have to watch it to the
yeah.
end, else you might miss something.
Yeah,
And there's like no in between area where you can get up, go to the
exactly.
bathroom.
Yeah. He
I
says here.
just
I've just found what he's saying. He's saying he defends 3 hour runtime by comparing it to binge watching TV. I've watched my kids sit and do 5 1 hour episodes in a row, but the thing is, I don't really like. I get what he's saying, but also it's kind of like. I don't know, something about watching, like, I feel more, like, watching an episode of a TV show doesn't feel the same as watching a movie. Like, they feel like very
yeah,
different things.
I just
And
really hope it's not crap, and I have to like watch a crap movie for 3 hours.
yeah, that's the problem too. If you're and you've spent if you're gonna go gold class as well, you're gonna be spending a lot more money. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, going to see, going into to a cinema to see a film, especially like a 3 hour, like a film over 2 hours, is really like, oh, why? Like it legitimately to me feels like he's just kind because James Cameron is notorious for making long movies. Like Titanic is
yeah.
like 3 hours or something. Fucking
I
the
look. I
Terminator
want to go.
films and stuff.
Yeah, I want to go out of like once the movie's finished. I want to leave the movies and not be like, I that was just a waste of 3 hours of my life that I'll never get
Mm,
back. Like that's
yeah.
I don't want to. I know it's already like I'm seeing a 3 hour movie and it's like, oh yeah, that is pretty much like 3 hours of my life. I'm never gonna get back. But I want to be like, oh, it's a good movie instead of me
Yeah.
going like, this is crap. I
Yeah.
wish I never saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of when I was watching. I was sort of. I was very much for the first one sort of apprehensive, and I was like, "Am I going to hate this? Am I going to be annoyed by having to watch this film because it's 2 hours 40 minutes or whatever?" And I mean, like, yeah, it's way too long, but I was fairly engaged throughout most of it. Like and it go the runtime goes by, so hopefully this new Avatar, it doesn't feel like 3 hours, which is gonna be hard to do because like you really feel that. I've watched 3 hour movies and you really feel the runtime at a certain point, and it's like, can we just get to the end.
Yeah, get to the end.
You know, it's taking
Um,
however long to get to the point.
I actually just remembered another scene from like the extended cut or something that I just remembered. Like I totally forgot, and it's a pretty big scene closer to the end. So
Oh, what scene is
it's
that?
so you remember Tasute, is it the guy that doesn't like Jake?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Uh, there's a scene when you know how he gets like shot down pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
And
We don't really see what happens. We
there's
just sort of
this
see him
yeah,
shot, and he falls out of the.
in the extended cut, Jake and Terry actually find him, and he's there,
Oh,
he's
right.
bleeding out, and he's like dying and all that, and Jake, you know, does like they had a really good like brotherly moment, and Jake, ends his misery, and does the knife to the puts his knife in and does like that prayer that they do whenever they like kill an animal or something like that,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is honestly I really like that scene because he goes like lead our clan, blah blah blah, you are one of the people. I really do like that scene. I feel like should have been left in a movie, and
Mm.
just a standard movie.
Yeah, at other sort of things about the film because we're sort of thinking generally. I think the action sequences as well are really like like the sort of third act final fight where the Na'vi are facing off against the humans. I think that's all really well
None.
crafted and very well put together, and I think the film really is very capable of showcasing some phenomenal action. I like it really like the action is very it works.
Yeah,
Um,
like all the parts where there is action, it's like it's something like huge. Like for instance, like one of the first proper action scenes we get to see is Jake running away from, I think it's called a Thanator, which is that giant like alien cat thing.
yeah,
Like and like that's a really cool scene. If you noticed, it does a T Rex roar
yeah,
from Jurassic Park.
that was very strange. I was like, why is it? That's a very odd.
I feel like that was just a little bit of a nod to Steven Spielberg because I'm fairly sure like James and Steven are good friends. So I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think the actually before when you were mentioning the creature designs, um, I found them to be very hit or miss. Like some of them I felt were like really great, and some of them were not as great. Like some of them looked really good, and some of them just sort of looked like sort of shapes, but there was no real definable sort of anything about them. I just found them to be very bland looking designs and stuff. That for some of them looked really great and all, but some looked
That
less so.
I think the the one animal that I dislike the most is
Hmm.
the I think they're like blue lemurs or something like that. It was the monkey creature.
Hmm.
With that one was probably my least favorite design of a creature.
Mm.
Um, just because it was just I don't know, it just didn't work for me. It
Mm.
looked a little bit too goofy.
Yeah, I thought some of the yeah, but like the sort of I don't know the flying animals. I thought they looked great. I thought the designs of them were excellent, and I
Definitely.
felt that it really worked. And I think they really the flying animals they really the film really demonstrated their sort of size and the flying. That's all great start. Like I feel like I'm just sort of repeating myself, but you know,
Yeah.
I think yeah, the film in a general sense, like it's a good film. Okay, I don't think there's, I don't think it should be controversial to say it's a good film because apparently it is. People have turned on the film and think it's shit, and I don't agree
Yeah.
with. And it's kind of like it's not though. Like it is like I understand it's not for everyone, but in terms of you know, it's
And
you have to give it some credit for being sort of this revolutionary way of filmmaking. Like it truly is sort of it will be a historical landmark in cinema. You know, 20 years from now or whatever. Like you know, and we every few
look,
years we get one. Well, not, every now and again we get one of those. We get like a historically important film. You know.
out
Uh,
of some of the stuff that came out in 2009, it's definitely one of the more memorable movies.
yeah.
There was some pretty good 2009 movies that came out.
Yeah. No.
Like some
I mean, it's good films every
2009
year.
just yeah, but like 2009 has some classic movies that I didn't even realize came out in 2009.
Yeah, you got Inglorious Bastards. You got Up. You've got
Caroline,
Caroline. Yeah.
you got Watchmen,
Oh yeah, Watchmen was out that year. Yeah.
uh, Human Centipede, Fantastic Mr. Fox,
No, yeah, fantastic.
Transformers 2, Zombieland.
Oh yeah, Zombieland. Yeah, the Star Trek reboot. They had the new Star Trek film out that year.
But like a lot of the other movies, other than like the big movies that everyone knows, all the rest, it's probably one of the more standout movies that came out that
Mm.
year.
Yeah, and it was also nominated for Best Picture, and it was nominated at the Oscars, which I think you know in terms of you know what. So it was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Art Direction, Cinematography, Visual Effect. Why did it not? It's only showing some of them here. So it won three Oscars. Avatar did Best Art Direction, Cinematography, and Visual Effects, which I think is fair. Like it is a visually remarkable film, and I you know, and then the cinematography, you know, the cinematography looks excellent, and then there's the art direction, which is like production design and stuff. So it was nominated for
I just realized,
nine Oscars that year. Yes.
yeah, I just realized there was actually kind of like a lot of alien slash space movies that came out. Well, not a lot, but like a decent amount of space and alien related movies came out that year.
Really? Because what there was Avatar, Star Trek,
Transformers,
Transformers.
Alien Base, Planet 51 came out. If you remember that movie, yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah. Um,
Um, the Moon,
Moon. Oh yeah, Moon.
yeah,
Yeah, heard of that. Yeah.
District 9.
District 9. That was also up for nominated for Best Picture that year as well.
It's a
Um,
very interesting movie. I actually kind of like District 9.
yeah. I think they're doing a
No,
sequel to it, I think. I might have heard.
that's kind of cool. Nine, if you know that movie, that's
I
a
feel like I've heard of it. I don't know. I don't think
yeah,
I know what it's about.
it, it's a bit of a weird movie, but it'll be interesting. It's interesting.
Hmm.
Dragon Ball, if you count it.
uh,
Let's not talk about that. That was a
oh, the live action
yeah, that was
version of
a
the.
disgrace.
Yeah, I've seen reviews of it of people saying yeah it's a terrible. So yeah, to get back to yeah, Avatar. So yeah, it was nominated for nine Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture, Director, Art Direction, which is production design. I believe it's production design. Yeah, production design, cinematography, film editing, original score, sound editing, sound mixing, and visual effects, which I all think are fairly reasonable nominations. But it, yeah, did not win. It only won three of those. I was gonna say I wouldn't have minded if it won score, but I believe Up was nominated that same year and for best score,
And
and
Up was just had a good score
Up had
in general.
a fantastic score. So I think that's fair. And Avatar, yeah, did not win. I believe Avatar was one of the front runners to win Best Picture that year and Best Director, but he lost to The Hurt Locker, and he lost to Catherine Bigelow for The Hurt Locker, who is his ex-wife. One of his, so it's very yeah, well, one of his ex-wives.
That was kind
Um,
of funny.
so yeah, it's very very interesting how that turned out. James Cameron's been nominated 5 times. Jesus Christ,
Jeez.
five.
Actually, for the how they advertised this movie was interesting too.
Oh yeah, how did they... I imagine they must have really focused on the visuals and stuff. And...
Actually, he released a couple of video games before the
Oh,
movie.
I think I've
Yeah,
got one of an Avatar video game that I have.
I have one too. I have the DS game, which I've never been able to beat. I think I'm on the last. I've been on the last boss since 2009,
I think
and
I've got
have
the
never been
Wii
able to beat it.
game, which I assume is the same game, but just on the Wii, I would
Uh,
assume.
no, actually, no. The DS version is like completely different from like all the other games, but like
Huh.
the DS version's like a little bit more cartoony. But
Hmm.
because it's a DS, it has to be more child friendly because Nintendo DS was more
Nintendo,
of like
yeah. Nintendo's a children's thing. Nintendo in
not,
general.
not for children. Like they have some messed up stuff, and they have stuff like Bayonetta, which is like that's right in the lines of children. Not children of age appropriateness.
Yeah.
But yeah, they James Cameron released a bunch of games before the movie came out to get people involved with the world before the actual you actually watch the movie.
Ah,
So like
that's
yeah, there was
actually a
like
that's actually a good idea because Avatar is very dense. Like that, like it's got a
yeah.
lot going on with it, and you really need to like.
So if I believe there was a PlayStation, an Xbox, a Wii, a DS, like a PC and a mobile game, if I believe.
And were they so they were
Um,
different across the different platforms, or were they all
they
mostly
weren't
the
all
same?
different. I'm pretty sure the Xbox, Wii, and PlayStation PC ones were all the same game, but the
Hmm.
mobile and DS games were different.
Right. Okay.
But I find that was an interesting marketing, releasing a video game before people see the movie.
Hmm. I mean, you see that. Well, you usually see video games released around the same time of film,
Yeah,
like an
or at
example.
least after the
Or
movie, like
after
after
movie,
people.
yeah, typically. And usually they're not completely accurate because because the games don't have everything about the film. They
Yeah,
don't know how the film ends. They can't do a proper adaptation of the film if they're being
and
made sort of concurrently with the film.
if I remember correctly, the games were like based away from like they weren't a part of the main story, so they gave away no spoilers.
Right.
You
So
know,
did you play as Jake Sully?
no, you play it as like either like a random human or a random Navi.
Ah, right.
Yeah, and so like you
So yeah,
don't
very
interact with
interesting.
any of the main characters, I believe. It's all there to get set up the
The
story,
yeah, to sort
what's
of
going on, the environment,
mm,
all that kind of stuff. Which
yeah,
I found that was a very interesting marketing. So
yeah. I think yeah, I don't this I've was just thinking like I imagine when the trailers came out for are you right?
oh, I just looked at the price for the DS game.
Is it how expensive is it?
It's $45 on Amazon,
45 is oh goodness.
and I got it for like $10 when I got it.
Well, well, because they don't sell it anymore, so I assume it obviously
Yeah,
is.
I
But
didn't think it was gonna be that much. It wasn't like the best game in the world, but it was like holy shit, $45. That's a decent price.
Hmm. Yeah, the film, like, I don't really feel like there's as much to talk about this film as I was kind of expecting. Like, it's over 2.5 hours, but it's really not
Other
as
than, visual effects
yeah,
were
visual.
amazing.
Yeah, I imagine though when people saw, because I didn't see this when it came out. I certainly have no memory of seeing it, and I just imagine how amazing it would look like in the cinema. Like I am very
Yeah.
disappointed I didn't get to see the re-release. Well, to be fair, they didn't keep the re-release in cinemas for that long. I expected them to keep it in
Yeah,
there.
I wanted to see the re-release too, but I just didn't have time for it,
Yeah,
and
I thought
I was
like
hoping.
they would have kept it in for like a few months, but it doesn't feel like they kept it in for even 1 month. Like it really
Yeah.
just sort of was there, and then I felt like they should
When,
have just kept it in there till the new one came out, so people get
yeah.
time to see it or
Well,
whatever.
okay, that would have been a lot of money to keep it in cinemas for that long, but I feel like they should have done it closer to the release date
That
of
is,
the
yeah, true. Or
new
maybe
one.
they could have even, I remember when Endgame came out, they did some cinema chains did like a double bill, so you'd watch Infinity War and then you'd watch Endgame, and maybe they
Yeah,
could
that would
try
have
doing
been
that.
sick.
That's
Yeah,
like close to 6 hours though.
yeah, true. But
But
so
so
is
is
like,
Infinity War and
if,
Endgame, so
yeah,
it's like people stayed out for that, so I don't think it would
yeah,
have really mattered. I think people would have gone to see the first Avatar and then gone to
the
see
second one.
Way of Water. Yeah, you know.
I really love the I again my favorite part is just the small details and all the visuals and all that and the music and
Yeah.
design. I that's my whole favorite part, and like even a little bit of the story is pretty good,
hmm I think
but the
that
acting is a little bit rough around the edges.
yeah, the acting is probably the weakest part of the film, but like again, it's not really an acting film. Really, it's more of just a visual experience. Yeah, I think I just really, really do like the lore and how much time clearly was spent on the film in terms of creating things. Like they've got the hair things, like you connect the hair to
Oh
these,
yeah.
which I think is a
So
really interesting thing.
yeah, and I love the aspect of all the plant life and all that are connected. They're
Yeah.
all yeah, it's all like they're all connected in one like massive electric bioluminescent electric bioelectric system, which I
Yeah.
find that's really cool.
Yeah.
And like I find that the really cool that the Na'vi can tap into that bioelectricity with their
Yeah, I think
hair
that's
tentacle thingies.
yeah, I think yeah, that's great. I really like that stuff. I think yeah, I rather like the film. I think it's a good film.
Mm,
Uh,
definitely.
do you have sort of any final things you want to say about the film before we wrap it up, or not really?
Um, I would say, uh, it's one of my favorite films. Definitely top 10. I wouldn't say maybe even top 5.
Oh, high praise.
Yeah. Um, not top 3, but top 5. Probably fifth. Probably fifth. We were, and I feel like it was just a really big movie that came out at the right time, just as like CGI technology was starting to really advance, and this really
hmm
shows the movie was just ahead of its time and really showed the capabilities, the maximum capabilities of CGI and where CGI can go, and really
hmm
set how like really set the point of where can they go from here, like.
hmm
And I just think it was a game changer.
Yeah.
It's a in the cinema world.
So yeah, are you rating it what 10? So because it sounds like you're
I'll I'll
or
I'll
you
rate it. I'll think I'll rate it like
or 9 even.
8 point 8.5. 8.5.
Yeah, and that's
It misses out of the 9 and 10 area for certain parts. But
hmm
8.5, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy. Solid 8.5.
yeah. Yeah, for me it's a 7 out of 10. It just, yeah, it doesn't quite. Yeah, it's just, yeah, the acting doesn't really work, and I find a lot of the characters to be a bit boring, which, you know, I do keep saying that, like, it's not really a character thing, and I like what they're kind of doing with some of the characters. It's just I wasn't as invested with the main character as I feel like I kind of should be, but, like, you know, it's a solid 7 out of 10 film. I think it's well worth watching. Like, I think people who dismiss it because, oh, it's Avatar. It's like, it's actually well worth watching. I think a lot of
Yeah,
people dislike it, but they really need to rewatch it because it's uh important. Like, it's one of those sort of films that people will be seen considered, like, you know, a real cultural milestone. You know, sort of how, like, Toy Story was the first fully computer generated film. You know, like,
yeah,
sort of like that, and Avatar is, you know, kind of doing that, but, you know, with actual people. So
yeah.
but yeah, no, and I like it, and I'm very interested to see what they do with this new one. So I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you all for listening. This is gonna be, yeah, my third last episode of the year. I've got two more planned for the year, and I'm very excited to do those. And I hope you've enjoyed listening. Aaron has done a few episodes now. So yeah, thank you for listening to this one. Thank you, Aaron, for joining me for this one.
I'm always happy to join.
It's a pleasure to have you on for this one, and I hope you enjoy. And I will see all of you in the next one. Goodbye.